Sweet. We are on air. Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Peters, and I am joined today by none other than Larry Kim. And we will be talking all about the new Facebook algorithm and things that you can do to sort of, I guess, beat the algorithm in the new era of it. And Larry, thank you so much for being here with us today. It should be a blast.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for hosting, and it's great to be here.
Yes, absolutely. So this is our first webinar on YouTube Live. So we're excited to see how this feels for everyone. If YouTube Live is a place that webinars will potentially live for us from here on out, but it should be fun. And if you have any questions or comments throughout the webinar, please feel free to drop them in the comment section or in the chat section. And Larry and I will save a good chunk of time at the end for questions. And if you're wondering about anything that we talked about throughout, so that should be a great place for you to sort of leave your thoughts and comments. So what I'm going to do is quickly share my screen, and I'm just going to sort of run through the algorithm and how it works really quick. But Larry, did you have any thoughts about today's webinar before we get started, and why sort of this is important for people to think about?
Well, it is one of probably the biggest change to the news feed in 10 years. Is that correct to say? Basically, Facebook is still a big deal. A lot of people still use it despite all the PR crises and stuff like this. I think we just need to adjust sort of our strategies and tactics a little bit in order to be compatible with how the algorithm works today. Absolutely agreed. Cool. So I'm going to share my screen really quick, just so we can, because Larry and I are both going to be doing a bit of screen sharing. So here we are. And for those of you who don't know who Larry Kim is, I'm sure you do since you're on this webinar, but just in case, Larry has quite an impressive and extensive background. CEO of Mobile Monkey, which is an incredible tool, top Facebook Messenger marketing platform. He's also the founder of WordStream, a PPC marketing software, employing over 300 people and $1 billion of ad spend for over 10,000 customers. Larry, you're also the #8 most popular author on Medium, which I think is just incredible. Awesome. Well, thanks for that intro. That's great. Yeah. I think very highly of you too.
Well, thank you very much. And then, of course, my name is Brian Peters. I'm the digital marketing strategist here at Buffer. Basically, not as cool of a background as Larry, but I do have my hands deep within the Facebook marketing world. So hopefully, both of us will be able to share some great tips for you all today. But before we really get started into the 10 tips that you can use to sort of beat the algorithm, I wanted to quickly give an overview of how the algorithm works. Just for people who aren't quite sure where we're at, and I'll just run through this really quickly so that'll sort of set it up for the rest of the presentation. So essentially, this is a quote from Mark Zuckerberg. He says, "The research shows that when we use social media to connect with people we care about, it can be good for our well-being. We can feel more connected and less lonely, and that correlates with long-term measures of happiness and health." So sort of this meta overview quote, but essentially what this means is that the Facebook algorithm today, where it stands, is all about connectedness, showing content that people are going to want to comment on and share and be a part of. And so I think this quote is a really, really good example of where we're today. So there's a lot. So basically how it works is that there's a lot of signals that affect, and then Larry, of course, feel free to jump in anytime with insights or anything that you have here. But there's a lot of signals that affect newsfeed content rankings. But as you can see, the ones highlighted in blue are sort of what the algorithm has moved to today. So, person sharing a link, multiple replies to comments, commenting or liking, and engagement. So a lot of focus on this sort of active engagement with posts. And is that what you're seeing, Larry, with your feed recently?
Yeah, there's like a lot of emphasis on meaningful replies. So not just like, good job or something that's, like those short replies, but, significant, meaningful
replies that spark other replies is one of the big ones.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So it's not just like, hey, great, great exclamation mark. It's sort of like, hey, great, asking a question or following up or sort of like you said, these deep, meaningful sort of comments. So basically, here are all the signals. To break it down into a much simpler form, Facebook has sort of broken these up into active versus passive. And Larry, like you just said, the passive stuff was, clicking and watching and sort of viewing and these sort of shallow comments on the right. And so that's not going to help your post in the algorithm as it stands today. On the left, you have the active or positive signals that will influence your content to help it get seen in the newsfeed. So that's stuff like commenting, sharing, and reacting. So a lot of emphasis placed on engagement today. So here's where we stand. Number one, content driving meaningful interactions will perform much better than content driving only consumption. Number two, pages may see a decline. Unfortunately, yes, we will continue to see a decline in reach, watch time, and referral traffic. But depending on the content, results will vary. And so that's sort of the exciting part, I think, for brands, is this idea that, your results actually can be positive even with this new algorithm. And then number three, updates will continue to roll out to the algorithm and newsfeed over the next several months. So that being said, here's what you can do. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, Larry. I'm going to let you sort of take over here and just stop there. And it's all you, my good friend.
All right, but so I'm just going to share my whole screen here. And can you just confirm that you can see my screen here?
Yep, you can see it perfectly.
It's like a unicorn summiting a mountain or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. That's the one. Awesome. So look, the way that we decided to do this was, Brian and I would just split it up. I was going to provide my top 5 ideas, and he's going to provide his top 5 ideas, and then take the Q&A at the end. So we're talking about all the Facebook stuff. Just a quick introduction. I'm Larry. I'm slightly obsessed with unicorns. I live in Harvard Square in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's actually where Facebook was founded. I started my last company in a bakery called Panera Bread a decade ago. It's the world's largest PPC marketing company in the world in 2018. Last year, we started a new chatbot marketing company called chatbot software company. It's called Mobile Monkey. And the last thing I'll just say about myself is I have a 3-year-old kid, another one on the way. All right. So back to our story. Just wanted to share my top 5. Facebook marketing hacks. Brian will take the other 5. Basically, first of all, it is a big deal. Like my posts, like this was some posts like immediately after the update. What I saw right off the back was roughly a 90% reduction in organic reach. Is that along the lines of what you guys were seeing, Brian?
Yes, exactly. Like at least, probably 90% or so.
Yeah, so look, here's one on the left, that I did. It got around 1,300 views, and then on the one on the right, it was around 123 people. And the sad thing is like, you see how Brian says this post is doing better than 95% of your posts, but it's only
I get that all the time.
but it's only getting like 123 people, so it's pretty awful. But basically what we've been trying to do over the last couple weeks and months is just come with different tactics and strategies to try to get some of that back. The bad news is like, you're never going to get back to like exactly where you were before, but some of this we can mitigate with just shifting some tactics and strategies. Two of my top marketing hacks for Facebook have to do with Facebook Messenger. So like just doing Facebook Messenger blasting and comment autoresponders and messenger subscriptions and this kind of stuff. I'm not sure if you guys do this a lot. It's kind of a new thing, but I wanted to just share with you guys some ideas here. So just, big picture, more people use Facebook Messenger on a daily active user basis than Facebook. They just have more daily active users, and The funny thing is that less than 1% of businesses have the ability to actually send and engage messages via messaging. And then here's the other problem. It's just really low open rates for social and email, whereas messaging, you typically get like 70 or 80% open rates, within the first 10-15 minutes, because people are just so obsessed with their phones. And so kind of a new way to engage with these users is to actually use Facebook Messenger marketing by building little chatbot applications. So if you've never used a chatbot before, it's just sort of a alternative way of communicating with users. This is an example of an order form where someone is like or trying to leave a message, for example. This is not a human. It's an automated conversation, like a robot is talking on behalf of the company. And so, one of the tools that we have at Mobile Monkey is the ability to create these kind of experiences, without having to do any software coding. And I think that's pretty interesting, because it's kind of like building a WordPress site, but not having to do any HTML coding and all this stuff. So there's a couple of really key things that you need to know about Facebook Messenger marketing. Usually the most popular one is this notion of Facebook Messenger blasting. So that's where before we used to just post stuff on our news feed and hope and pray that someone would see it. But now there's this new way of getting in touch with these people. You just blast them with your Facebook Messenger Mobile Monkey chat blaster. And so this is just an example where I'm blasting a new blog post, for example, to a bunch of my distribution list, and Neil Patel just happens to be on my distribution list, and I know he read this article because you see how his avatar is showing up at the bottom right corner. It means that he's scrolled through to that point, and so I thought this was kind of interesting. Basically, the rules here are that you can chat blast anyone who messages your Facebook page. So if you could help me out here, if you could just go to my Facebook page and message me, I'd appreciate that. And then what happens is that when somebody messages your bot, you get there's some basic information from them, like their profile picture, first and last name, gender, location, and language. That's just enough information to, strike up an automated conversation with them using a bot. And so, what types of conversations do you typically do? Well, there's that chat blaster idea where you create some content, like some text, links, images, galleries, just blast them context. So this is an example of the chat blaster in Mobile Monkey, and it doesn't have to be a chat blast. You can schedule them for later. So it's kind of like a drip campaign. So then the question becomes, how the heck do you get all these people to opt in to your messenger updates? There's a couple different ways. One of them is to add something called an opt-in checkbox button to all of your website contact forms. So this will definitely increase my my messenger subscriber base, because wherever on the website I have forms where people fill out technical support or product signups or download pages, we just add this extra button that says also subscribe to messenger updates. So for example, the Mobile Monkey blog, we do email subscriptions and all that stuff. Most blogs actually have email subscriber capabilities where they ask people to sign up for recent blog posts. I'm just saying, also have them opt into Messenger updates, because Messenger is kind of like email. It's 8 or 9 or 10 times more likely to be seen, because email has all these problems with spam filters and stuff like this. So how the heck do you do this? It's pretty easy, actually. You just go into Mobile Monkey, you just create these things called lead magnets, and you just copy and paste the code that we create for you into your HTML form. Okay, and then I just wanted to give you a couple other examples, Brian. of how people use bots. One of them is something called a Facebook comment guard. What's a Facebook comment guard? It's basically an autoresponder to people who engage with your posts. So if people could just take a second here and just pull up a browser, like Brian, I'd even appreciate if you could do this. Just pull up a browser and just go to bit.ly/fb-post-guard, because I just want to show you how this works. So I'll just leave this for a second. bit.ly/fb-post-guard. So let me show you how that works here. So it's bit.ly Facebook, this one here. So what this is just I've attached a comment guard on this post, so that if people, there's like 831 comments on this page. Like if you were to just add a comment here, Brian, you'll get a message back via an autoresponder through Facebook Messenger. So just people, if you could just give this a try by typing out like testing this thing.
Larry, I was checking out that post this morning. Incredible engagement on that as well.
Oh yeah, thanks. So just people, if you could just it doesn't have to be anything. You just say testing or hello, just for fun. And basically, what just happened here is the page actually messaged me back. See this by Messenger. It's saying you can build autoresponders with MoleMonkey. Watch a demo or sign up for free. This is like blah blah blah. It's just it's something easy to try out yourself. And that's called a Facebook comment guard, or an autoresponder for posts. And one additional cool thing about that feature is that people who message your page or who drop messages on your comments actually get opted into messaging. So they're now on your list. So this is actually a list building activity. So one little hack that I do is I actually post kind of, oh boy, this thing has got a lot of engagement. I just post comment worthy content like this one here. So it's like, guess what's the answer? The battle of the English of the math. Blah blah blah. Like, how many elephants are going to the river? Like this is just an example of like stuff that gets like a lot of comments. So like kind of the key here is you just find stuff that people want to comment on and boost those posts. You see what I'm saying, Brad? I think you're on mute. Anyways.
Yes, I'm here. Totally agree.
Any thoughts on that there?
You know what? That's interesting. I'm actually, so one of the questions which we could probably take now, because I think I'm wondering it, and also I think a few other people are wondering it. What's usually the reaction you get from these, that the fact that it is sort of a quote unquote robot? I mean, it has your face attached to it, but are you finding that people are generally sort of taking to this and they're finding that it's actually kind of cool to interact with maybe someone who's not personally you?
It's the engagement. I can just go by engagement rates, and the engagement rates from Messenger is like, hundreds of percentages. Like it's just so much more higher engagement rates than just organic posts alone. You know what I mean? So I think it's kind of a big deal. Like, I don't know if you can hear the beeping here, like in the background here. It's basically like there's like a gazillion people on my bot right now, just like talking to it. You see what I'm saying? I just leave them. I just leave the message. I just leave the sound on my phone here because it makes me happy.
So, are there ever times where you might take an opportunity to speak in someone as yourself? Like, are there with Messenger bots, are there ever like human to human contact points?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you do, that's called live takeover. That's where you I can show you that. So here's the all the messages here, like 56 unread messages. Okay, and like you can see here that all these people like Tom, and these are people on the webinar right now, because like the time is like 1:19. You see that? All these people are like engaging with the bot, but you can jump in and write a reply, and basically the bot silence itself once you start talking to it. You follow?
Yes, that's very cool. So that's good to know.
So it's not like you and the robot are talking to the customer at the same time. It's one or the other. So just going a little further. I don't know if you mentioned, Brian, you're on my newsletter. What I do in my newsletters, I send them to links to Messenger content from other medium. So like in my email blasts, like the call to action is often just like sign up for updates via Messenger. You see what I'm saying? And people, you can try this one out as well. I set up a bunch of links so you can just see for yourself, Brian. If you just go to bit.ly/FB Blaster, so I can show people what that looks like. It's kind of like this one here, bit.ly/FB Blaster. By all means, people, please try this yourself. So it's just shooting off my unicorn here, and it just says, would you like to receive occasional tips and hacks about Facebook Messenger marketing from Larry Kim? And you can click yes or no. Okay, so that's just a link. So what I did here is like I've created some Messenger content. But then I can link to it from my email blasts or from my website. You see what I'm saying? It's just different ways to get it. Just by analogy, like remember how like 10 years ago when Facebook was kind of new, companies were just trying to get people to like your page. Remember that? Like kind of the new way of the 2018 equivalent of that kind of activity is getting people to opt into messaging. You follow?
Yes.
And the last thing that you can do here is you can do this send to messenger ads. So that's I'm sure you're familiar with how there's different ad formats in Facebook ads. For example, there's like click campaigns and engagement campaigns and all this stuff. Well, my personal favorite one is the send to messenger campaign. Why? Because you can strike up a conversation like visit Larry's amazing chatbot. It will blow your mind. Message promo for a secret discount. Send message. Right. So what happens here is when someone sees this, if they send me a message, not only can I automatically engage and try to convert them, dynamically, I can also they're all opting into messaging. You follow? So like anyone who clicks on this, I get their information. I can blast them, add them to the blaster. And the last idea here is just we've created this way of exposing your bot on your website as well. So it's like a bot, like an automated chat, but humans can run with it. So it's the same logic and content that you create for your Facebook page. You can expose it on your website as well, and it has the added benefit of adding more people to your Messenger contact list as people engage with your chat widget. Any questions about these things, Brian?
No, not on my end. I know there's a couple. I know we said we wait for a couple audience questions at the end, but I think going back to your last point and putting people into like sort of this automation process, have you run across any sort of privacy issues yet with adding people to Facebook Messenger, or what are your thoughts there?
They have to confirm. So it's not like if you remember that thing here. This guy, like, you're not added until you say yes, and then there's a built-in unsubscribe. So like if you type stop or unsubscribe, it blocks you from sending messages to them in the future. So I think it's actually pretty well created. Like emails in email, I can just like download your name, Brian, like from a list of emails, and I can, this would be unethical, but I could blast you, email updates for whatever the heck I wanted to, right? Whereas, whereas in Facebook Messenger, there's this kind of more robust permission model where people have to more explicitly opt into this stuff, and unsubscriptions have to be honored. It's like that's the problem with spammers. Is like you click the unsubscribe button, but they keep sending you stuff. You know what I mean? Here, there's like the Facebook platform actually stops you from sending them, content,
Right.
because like you don't have permission to message them anymore. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and with that comment with a Facebook postcard, so if someone comments on your post, are they automatically added to your Facebook Messenger list, or is it just for that specific post?
So the postcard, if you remember that thing, what was it? It was Facebook. Anyways, the postcard sent you back a message, Brian. It said something like, "Hey, would you like to learn how to do this?" You're still not opted into messaging unless the user then replies to that response. So it's like kind of like
Got it.
You drop a comment on my page. I then send you a message, and then if you then reply to that message, you're opted in.
Got it. Okay, cool. So it's not like an automated sort of process that people actually have to then opt in or respond to the message.
They have to reply. So what you do is you
Cool.
basically create an autoresponder that encourages responses. So remember my example of that math problem, the one about, like, so in my autoresponder, I didn't give them the answer. I just said, "Would you like to know the answer of the riddle?" And then and I said, like,
right.
Type yes if you want the answer. And so they type yes, and now they're subscribed. Here, I'll show it to you. It's this one here. So I just where is it? It's there we are, Brian. Okay,
I love that riddle, by the way.
The battle of the English and the maths. See, even how like there's spelling errors on this image because they like people love commenting on things with spelling errors. So like, is it well, I don't know, 13. Well, we'll just type 13. Okay, that's not the right answer, but basically what comes back is it just says an autoresponder comes back. It's telling me that type yes if you want the answer, and then you're subscribed. Okay, so back to our story. You can expose all this chat functionality on your website using the chat plugin. It's basically like, if you go to, like, I don't know, mobilemonkey.com, this thing here in the corner here, like if you ask about like jobs or it sends you to the job page, etc. Like, but the neat thing about this chat widget is that now I'm subscribed because I've engaged with the page, so I can blast people back. Whereas like a lot of the other chat platforms, if you just close the window, there's no way to get back in touch with these people. You see what I'm saying? But push. That's really cool. I can send push notifications to your phone, and I can customize them based on kind of like what you were talking about. Like if we were talking about jobs, I can send you some list of job openings or whatever. All right, and then the last thing is this is a totally free product. You can just sign up for this stuff, mobilemonkey.com, and it's powerful, easy, and free. All right, so Brian, that was a lot of tips and tricks there. So I'm calling that my number 5 and number 4 hack. I've kind of combined, a couple of different hacks in that kind of bonanza of messenger hacks. I just wanted to move on here. Number 3 hack is to boost your unicorns. So this is a Facebook advertising hack, and obviously people know these days that if you boost some piece of crap content with 1% click-through rate, then it's going to cost you $3, $4, $5 for that click. But if you can boost more interesting content with like 7 or 20 or 30 or 50% engagement rates, the cost per click goes down substantially. So the problem is of course people have a lot of difficulty figuring out what's a really good content to boost, because most marketers suffer from donkey denial syndrome, which means they think their crap doesn't stink. They think everything they're doing is a unicorn when it's actually a donkey or some other creature like a rhinoceros or a mosquito or triceratops that they thought was a unicorn but was actually not a unicorn. And so basically my donkey detector, it's a really pretty easy way to to find the unicorns, the stuff with high click-through rates, basically you just produce a lot of content, like, use Buffer to send a lot of stuff out on Twitter or Facebook, or sorry, just Twitter or other platforms, and then you just measure the engagement rates. Like, how did it do? Was it a 1% click-through rate, or is it like a 10% click-through rate? And so if something did really well on Twitter, what you can do is you can you can use those and post those on Facebook and boost them as well. Just give you an example of this, Brian. This was an article I did a couple months ago in January. It says, "Goodbye Facebook newsfeed, how meta." We're talking about this on our webinar today. But basically, it was kind of like a quick article I whipped up, but I put in a funny image of Mark. Looks like he's delivering some kind of eulogy, and he looks like his cat died or something because he's wearing black. It generated a substantial number of people of reach. 607,000 people. So this is a unicorn. So what do you do when you find a unicorn? You have to boost these things, and I boosted it for. It doesn't have the statistics here, but I boosted it for about $500, and it generated several hundred thousand more views, and so that's a good deal, because it was a very, very high click-through rate with a very, very low cost per click, less than 1 penny a click. The other thing that I do is, when you have one of these really great topics that are doing so well, like once in a while you have these really hot topics, is you just milk them for all they're worth. So like, I created a lot of blog content around this topic. We're actually having a webinar on this topic, Brian. The reason why I suggested this topic as the topic was because I had a sense that it would do well. Why? Because there's just so much interest in this topic, as evidenced by past content marketing efforts. Any questions on this tip or this thing, Brian?
No, not at all. I say highly enough of this tip here, because we boost our unicorns at Buffer, and honestly, yeah, we'll get video views for even less than a penny, or we'll get traffic for about a cent a click. So yeah, can't speak highly enough of this tactic.
So just two left here. I'll quickly wrap this up. Number 2 is the inverted unicorn Facebook ad targeting method. So what the heck is this? Well, it's kind of a weird new way of targeting ads on Facebook that I've invented here, and it's kind of the opposite of how you're probably doing advertising on Facebook. So the normal way of doing advertising on Facebook is you cast a very specific audience, like certain demographics, certain interests, certain behaviors, and we're just trying to, not going after everyone, but just kind of the specific target market that's interested in our products and services. So cast a narrow net, and then try to maximize the engagement. So as an example of this, say we're selling email marketing software. Okay, so I might go after people who, I don't know, like email marketing, okay, but also have marketing job titles. So this is kind of normal, conventional ad targeting, where you kind of narrow the targeting to maximize the engagement rate. And of course, the problem with this approach is that it's kind of like that saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. So meaning, just because these people are the best audience for you and your business doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily, find your offerings to be interesting and want to click on them. You know what I mean? And so if you're in one of these like boring businesses where you're selling the same damn thing that you've been selling for like a decade, and it's really hard to come up with new ideas, might I suggest the inverted unicorn ad targeting method, which is the opposite of the conventional wisdom. And the strategy here is to target completely unrelated interests. So in this example, we're still selling email marketing software, but we're targeting people who like email marketing software and also like Game of Thrones. Okay, so there's nothing related here. These are totally uncorrelated interests. We're going after people who like, the Arya Stark fan page or whatever. And the reason why, this is an interesting strategy is that it allows us to then come up with custom creative that speaks to not just one of their interests, email marketing, but actually two of their different interests, like email marketing and Game of Thrones. So if you have no idea why these ads are funny, that's the beauty of this whole system. It's because you would never see these ads in the first place. Only the super fans of Game of Thrones, who happen to be email marketers, would actually see this stuff. And what we're finding is that by targeting 2 or 3 or even 4 completely uncorrelated interests, it does generate a substantially higher engagement rate, which then lowers your cost per click and your cost per 1,000 impressions substantially. Like in this case, we're paying $1 CPMs, and the typical CPMs is more like $20 or $30 these days. Any thoughts or questions on the inverted unicorn, Brian?
Not at all. Is that a real example of Game of Thrones? Because I feel like that was awesome.
Yeah, I know the CEO of iContact, and
nice. Okay.
I help him out with some stuff like from time to time. All right. So the last idea I have for you guys of survival here in the post newsfeed Armageddon world is a unicorn slush fund. Okay, so this is a budgeting concept. So there's a difference between kind of a unicorn slush fund and a monthly PPC budget. So most companies in 2018, they have something called like a monthly PPC budget. So give you an example, say you're the social media manager and the finance department has approved $1,000 to spend on promoting content for this month. Okay, so typically what social media managers will do is they'll say, okay, well, I have $1,000 to spend. We've got 10 posts scheduled for this month, so let's evenly divide the budget. $100 per post, and that is just a terrible, terrible strategy because as we've mentioned before, most of your posts go nowhere and get and end up costing $3 or $4 or $5 a click. But 1 or 2 or 3% of your posts actually do fantastically well and have very, very low cost per click. And so what I'm suggesting is that you talk to your finance team and float the idea of creating a unicorn slush fund. So the main difference here is that the slush fund has rollover, meaning it's not use it or lose it budgets, where like, oh my God, if I didn't promote 10 posts this month, like I lose my budget. The idea here is you can just it's like we didn't find any unicorns this month, so let's just like save the money for later when we do have something more interesting to post. It's a pretty simple concept in theory, but you would be surprised, like 99% of companies do the latter approach, which I think is foolish. Any thoughts or questions on that one, Brian?
No thoughts there. Only that we have, based on your advice over the past few months, saved a unicorn slush fund for ourselves, and has been very helpful.
Oh, that's great. That's great. All right, so those were my Facebook marketing hacks. The slush fund, the inverted unicorn, the unicorn detection, and the Facebook Messenger hacks. So thanks, Brian. Let's hand it back to you to kind of wrap up the other 5 ideas. All right.
Excellent. Thank you, Larry. Quick question. Will this presentation be available for viewers later on? Or is there information about what you spoke about?
Yeah, I mean, we should probably just do a write-up for your blog afterwards, and we can post the files and the recording at that location.
Awesome. Excellent. Cool. So I guess I'll take some opportunity to share my 5 tips for the new Facebook algorithm and what you can do to succeed. I think, how much we planned this, Larry, but I think we did it perfectly. I'm going to be speaking a lot more on actual content side of things, which I think is perfect because you had a lot of great technical and ad stuff in there. So I'm going to also share my screen and give some sort of the hands-on examples like you did about how you can actually do tactics that I'll be talking about. Let me just make sure that we're actually sharing here. Okay, sweet. Larry, just confirming that you can actually see the...
Yeah, I see your screen. Here's what you can do. Perfect. Okay, great.
Yeah, awesome. All right, cool. So tip number 6. So you covered 1 through 5. Tip number 6 is repurpose blog content into videos for Facebook. And this has been a huge tactic for us at Buffer because, being in the SaaS social media software space, you kind of run out of
things to talk about with videos and on the blog. And, you know, there's only so many things you can do in the video world as a SaaS product. And so what we found is, you know, we have all this great blog content at blog.buffer.com, and it just kind of sits there, and it does great with SEO and on Google. But what we needed to do was find a different way to find video content that was evergreen. And so what we did is we, okay, how successful video formula. And, you know, obviously video is a huge trend on Facebook over the last few, you know, 2 to 3 years. They boast 8 billion average daily views, 100 million hours of video watched every single day. You know, small businesses now jumping on the platform. 44% plan to spend money on promoting Facebook video content in 2018. And then, of course, the fact that video works really, really well. So video on Facebook averages 3 times the reach and engagement compared to photos and links. That's taken directly from our Facebook page, as well as other small businesses and brands that we talk to on a daily basis. So what I wanted to do is just quickly show you how we sort of create this formula for finding successful video content. So here I am in Google Analytics, and this is the Buffer Analytics page. Behavior, site content, all pages. And this is a super simple tactic, and it might seem sort of baseline beginner, but it has really worked for these videos that I'm going to show you in a second. But essentially, all we do, you know, under behavior and all pages, it sorts by most page traffic. You know, you can set the date range to whatever you want. And then what I do is just show 50 rows, and essentially, you know, this is showing your top post. What it also is showing is what people are currently searching for in Google and how they're discovering your blog. And I mean, this is literally a list of videos you can create, but obviously you want to create the ones that are sort of primed to be put into videos, like ideal images and social media posts. Probably a great video topic. I mean, you can include just like sort of photos of the ideal image size, and we're getting 13,000 visits a week from this post alone. And so what I'll do is I'll then take this and I'll drop it into a spreadsheet of video topic ideas. And slowly but surely, I will start creating these videos. So let me give you an example. We created this one on Facebook in the last, about 3 months ago, you know, 7 incredible video stats every month. This is pulled directly from our blog, 600 likes, 71,000 views. And it took me maybe 30 minutes to create in Animoto. And Animoto is one of my favorite tools for creating videos. Super simple drag and drop sort of video template, but I mean, it's pretty straightforward. There's nothing too fancy about this video. It's essentially just showing video stats that every marketer should know. And like I said, really, really great results, and that's Animoto. So that's the first tip, is don't try to reinvent the wheel when it comes to video creation. Go to what you know. So use your Google Analytics, use your share counters, find out what people are engaging with, find out what people are searching for on Google, and just basically repurpose that content into video content. And it has worked really, really well for us because it helps drive traffic back to our website, and then also engagement around topics that are interesting to our audience. Seventh, well, it was my second. Oh, Larry, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, it's a great one. That's a great tip. Cool. I call it a videoification of unicorns. Videoification. You take your best stuff.
Nice. Videoification of unicorns. I love that. I'm gonna have to steal that one from you. That's a good one.
It's okay.
Cool. So my number 2 tip, aka number 7 tip, is to use current events or evergreen topics to create what we call edutainment, education and entertainment. And this one's a bit more hard to wrap your mind around, in the sense that you actually have to go out and dig for topics and find the topics that people are going to be interacting with, as opposed to the previous tip where you sort of have a proven formula for topics on your blog or your website. This one is like you're kind of guessing, but there are ways to not guess. But basically, you know, the theory that we take to Facebook is that people want to be entertained on Facebook. They want to be educated. They want to be entertained. They want to be inspired. Like I said, that we call that edutainment. What they don't want to hear about all the time, and there's time and places for talking about yourself, but you know, people are on Facebook to connect with friends and family, and especially with this new algorithm change, you know, talking about your brand or your products all the time isn't necessarily going to work, because people are going to be sick of it, and also Facebook is just going to, you know, de-promote that content in the feed. So when you mix my previous tip with this tip, you'll always have a never-ending stream of great content to post on Facebook. And let me show you exactly how you can do that. So I'm going to share my screen again. Exit out of this so I have some more bandwidth on the computer. But one tool that I really, really love is called Buzzsumo. And essentially, you know, if you're out of video ideas or if you're out of topic, like let's say TechCrunch, for example. Let's say you're in the tech space or your audience cares about tech news. What I do is just go to TechCrunch, copy the URL, go to Buzzsumo, sort over the past month, and I'll just search. And what Buzzsumo is doing here is pulling their top articles based on total engagements from social media. So guess what? This is literally a playbook for what people are talking about currently on social media. So, you know, FCC approved SpaceX plan, you know, these cameras could hide anywhere. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff. So even if you wanted to get even more relevant, you might search by the past week and like, look, log in with Facebook data hijacked by JavaScript trackers. So if you're in the tech industry, that's a huge topic. Go into your Animoto, go into whatever video product you use, promo, whatever you use, and then you can start creating video topics based on this. Why video versus maybe an article? Well, you know, like we talked about, it does get quite high engagement on Facebook. Of course, you can also write an article, but that's sort of kind of the approach we take. And here's an example. Here's one from Lifehacker, 5 surprising facts about how brains work. And we actually wrote an article about this on our blog as well. So 1,000 views, 820 people liked it. And honestly, it's just a summary of, you know, surprising facts about your brain. And here's another one that we created. Let's see. Find themselves late in their career. Tina Fey was working at the YMCA at 23, et cetera, 35,000 views, 477 likes. So a lot of great ways. Get creative with your content on Facebook. And, you know, you can use Google Analytics, and you can also use tools like Buzzsumo or Feedly or Pocket or whatever you want to find these awesome topics. Any thoughts, Larry?
Oh, I love it. I call this unicorn cloning, where you find like the unicorn that did well on another site and you just, you know, make it your own.
I love that. So do you have like unicorn terms for pretty much every marketing aspect?
I am very obsessed with unicorns.
I love it. Also, so do you have someone on your team that creates those graphics for you? Because I always love the graphics you put out.
It takes forever. I still do it.
Are you? Okay, good to know. Good to know. I've always been curious about that. Okay, tip number 8, tip number 3 on my end. I think this is probably my biggest thing for businesses and brands who are struggling to find success with Facebook, and that's curating content. So sort of similar to what we were talking about just now, where you're going out, you're cloning unicorns. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to phrase that, but boost engagement and reach with curated content. And again, another example for you here. So this has been huge, and we wrote a post on this on the blog all about user-generated content and how it's helped our Instagram account. But did you know that it also has worked for our Facebook account as well? So all user-generated content, and actually, as a matter of fact, if you go, I actually pulled up our analytics for Facebook. Also, you can see how much our reach is sort of dwindling over the past couple months. But if you take and you look at all of our top successful, you know, our top content on Facebook, you know, this post reached 532,000, and I'm just scrolling through here, just pulling stuff out. Literally, this is all curated content on our page. And this one, for example, so why did I bring in Instagram? Because, you know, we're curating content on Instagram, and we're working hard to get this content and creators, but it shouldn't stop there. And so we do this thing called Buffer Community Photo of the Day, where we then reshare our Instagram content to Facebook. You know, there's no sales tactics in here. It's pure curated content. And then Larry, you know, using your sort of tactic of boosting your unicorns, this one was getting a lot of engagement just organically. So, you know, using that slush fund that we had, we put some money behind this. I think only $300. It reached over 1 million people. 55,000 comments, reactions, or shares. It reached, you know, it's just the stats on this one were amazing. It's curated. It's relevant to our sort of audience who loves the future of work. They love education. So it's sort of the peripheral sort of topics that we talk about at Buffer. But, you know, if it wasn't for the slush fund, and if it wasn't for our you know, curating content approach to Facebook engagement, you know, we would have never reached 3 million people. So I can't speak highly enough about curating content. Like we said, you know, use Buzzsumo, use Feedly, use Sprout Social, or I mean, not Sprout Social, use, don't use Sprout Social, use Buffer. But yeah, so curating content has been huge for us. And you know, the examples are unlimited here, but every sort of one of our big posts are pieces of curated content. So don't be afraid to share work that's not yours as long as it's related to your brand. I don't know, Larry, do you share any curated content ever?
Yeah, it's a big deal. I have you know, I've wrote a bunch of programs that actually find interesting, it's like surface interesting stuff for me. It's that valuable. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. And like I said, yeah, it's by far our #1 driver of engagement. It is hard to continuously create awesome content. Curated content can fix that. And then the cool thing about curated content that I don't think is talked about enough is that, you know, like Larry, people go to you for inspiration on social media. Like people seek out your account, they go to you. And I think what a lot of brands are lacking is that sort of becoming a hub for good content, because they lack the good content, right? And so if you're curating content and you're curating this really, really great source of inspiration and information for people, then they might actually go to you as a source for inspiration, just like they would, you know, Larry Kim. So I think that's sort of the untalked about benefits of curated content.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, tip number 9, wrapping it up here, and we'll get into some questions before we go. But, you know, Facebook groups, huge part of the new algorithm era, talking about how you can increase engagement and conversations, and sort of this move from blast everyone to more niche communities, specifically Messenger, like you were talking about, you know, one-on-one interactions. Quickly, it's actually funny because I was just about to start, got an email from Animoto, that tool I was talking about, join our community on Facebook. And this was today. Really, really cool. So if I click on this link, it takes me to their Facebook group. And they have more than 8,000 people in this group. And I think the key thing for groups, though, is, and I'm part of a lot of social media groups, but I think the key part of this is that the best part is that Facebook still sends notifications to you when someone posts in the group. And I think that's huge. Not only that, but they also show group posts within the feed. So you're literally getting it 3 different ways on Facebook. You're getting the content as if you would just join the group. You're getting a notification about the content in the group. And then you're also just seeing it in your feed on a regular basis. And Mark Zuckerberg has regularly pointed to how big groups are for Facebook moving forward. And Larry, I know you have a Facebook group as well, right? How's that going for you?
It's kind of like a different kind of engagement. It's you know, people who are already familiar with your brand, so it's going to be much higher engagement. But it's not like you can. It's a different kind of engagement. You're not finding new people. You know what I mean? Like you have to be able to invite them to your group. So you still have to do it, but you see what I'm saying? It's kind of like playing a sporting game where you only have defense or something. Like you still need to find new people.
Right. Good point. Good point. Good point. Yeah. So I guess it's like, you know, once you get them into your Messenger funnel, once you get them into your sales funnel or marketing funnel, then yeah, groups is a great way to sort of activate them into an active member of your community. But you're right. You still gotta find them in the first place. So yeah, just some quick facts about Facebook groups. 1 billion people around the world use groups. 100 million people name groups as the most important part of their Facebook experience. And that's coming directly from a survey. Like we talked about, it's a great way to, you know, sort of activate your current customers or one-on-one relationships. And then also it's a really great way to develop thought leadership on a specific topic. Last but not least, number 10, reshare your top performing unicorn. That was for you, Larry. I added that in there last second. Top performing content to Facebook. And I think this is one that doesn't get talked about enough. And it's this idea of resharing content. And that has been huge for us. Let's just talk about the fact, actually, let me go back to this really quick. Less than 3% of your audience on Facebook will see your content, which is not necessarily your fault unless, like, you know, you're posting donkeys. Less than 3% due to the new algorithm will see your content on Facebook, which is not your unicorns. You've worked hard on creating this content. So, you know, in the new era of the algorithm, it doesn't work just to post once. And so what we do, you know, is we'll head into Buffer. I might sort by the last 90 days, and then I'll do maybe most liked posts. And then here we are. And what I'll do is I'll sort of look for like some posts that we haven't posted twice, like this one, for example. Then what I'll do is I'll head into publishing tools. And I don't know how many people are familiar with this feature, but you head into publishing tools, you can actually go to publish posts, and they have this neat little search feature here. So I can do like buffer community, and this is going to search posts with this buffer community photo of the day. And then I can see, how many times have I posted about this or about another photo, or, have I posted in this? And the search feature is really great because you can see how many times you reposted it. But if you look at big, strategies from, top brands like Forbes or Mashable or Entrepreneur or whatever it is, BuzzFeed, they're actually posting videos, they're actually posting their content more than once on Facebook because they understand that, number one, only 3% or less of their audience is seeing the post the first time around. And number two, if they do repost it, it's not the same people seeing it again because the algorithm is so unique and different that they're actually showing the content to sometimes new people. So that's really interesting. And I think one of the takeaways too is that, we've at Buffer seen instances where the second or third time around posting to Facebook actually generates 2 times engagement. So whether it be timing or people's mood that day or other things happening on social media or in the world, a lot of times people just aren't maybe ready to interact with your content, or maybe there's something happened with the algorithm. So a big strategy for us has just been resharing our top content, and that has actually really worked for us. Larry, do you reshare content on Facebook at all?
I usually make a little bit different. Like I'll maybe change the title or something like this, but yeah, I'll reshare stuff. But just normally, if it doesn't do well the first or second or third time, it's probably not going to do better, that great on the fourth time. So, right.
Exactly.
At some time, you have to let the donkey die.
Yes, and just to be fully transparent here, we're only promoting our unicorns. Sort of sorted by top stuff. I don't think we've tried to avoid resharing anything that did. Like, you shouldn't reshare to try to make a bad, you know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense. So
that's kind of delusional.
Yes. Okay, cool. So I'm going to stop screen sharing here. I'm going to put it back to you on the camera just for a sec. And then I'm going to go ahead and check out some questions. So we're going to have about 10 minutes here, maybe 5 minutes or so, and then we can answer the rest. I can go in and answer the rest in the comments. But let's see. Top questions. Larry, I know you had a bunch for you when we were going through. Okay. Here for you, Larry. Do people get turned off from your page? Oh, we already kind of answered this one, but I think the biggest, talking about Messenger again, where do you see the future of Messenger going? And do you think this is do you think it's a novelty, which is why we're seeing such high engagement rates right now? Or do you think that this is really just where people prefer to engage with content?
Well, it's funny that you're saying engage with content. That's kind of a buffer view, I think. I think chatbots are really great for just, for all sorts of things. Like, instead of doing a webinar sign up on a web page, like, why not take the webinar sign up via chat? You see what I'm saying? And then the neat thing about that is, what's the attendance rate for webinars? It's like 1 out of 4 people show up. But if the sign up is through Messenger, then I can send out a push notification 5 minutes before. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of different applications. It's not just about content. If I would rather, cancel an appointment, through chat rather than have to call the dentist, and be on hold and all this stuff. Like, there's and even the content aspect of Messenger is a little bit more. It's a little bit more customized, like choose your own adventure-y kind of thing, because I can create a funnel with like different flows, like, are you a marketer or an agency? Like, I can kind of have the content like customized on the fly, as opposed to just delivering a static blog post.
Absolutely. One more question on the Messenger front. So I did see I haven't read your email that you sent out this morning, but with the Cambridge Analytica, that sort of issue going on Facebook, how is that changing Facebook bots at the moment? And should people be concerned, or how is that going to affect people's Facebook page with that? What do you know about that so far?
Sure. The new bots are on pause. So like if you're just trying to create a bot today, there's an app review process that usually takes a couple hours normally, but is currently on pause. My hope is that this is kind of back to normal in a week or two. But if you have an existing bot, then things are fine. Well, you can still use a tool like Mobile Monkey to build and test bots, like even today. It's just the deployment of that to Facebook is currently they're just re-reviewing all their security policies and app review guidelines. Yeah.
Got it. Cool. Well, thanks for answering that one. I'll take this question from Hold Up. So Caitlin asks, I'm trying to get our employees to engage with our Facebook content. Does the algorithm account for the same people liking, sharing, aka does it interactions as less than other interactions? And I don't think that's the case. And Larry, I'll go to you on this one as well. But I think right now, as it stands with the newer algorithm, I think that any interactions, even if it's from employees or people who sort of like the same content from you all the time, are counted as good signals in the feed. What happens is, like, let's say your employees, the same employees always interact with your page. Well, then the people connected to those employees are probably also going to see. So you're really creating a bubble in that case of sort of the same people interacting and seeing your content, but it's not going to be a bad thing, and they're not going to count it as less than. But if you're getting new people interact and comment on your Facebook post, that's sort of when you get to reach new audiences through the algorithm. But I don't think that it's a negative. I think any sort of engagement from employees, friends, family, it will be counted as a positive. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts there?
You're right. It used to be that if a lot of your people would just like the post, it would start to trend, and Facebook would show it in front of people who are like these people, and so that's been really diminished. And now it's just showing that post to like their close associates. You know what I'm saying? So it just. Freaking Facebook. Ugh, they just make it so hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would add that this does work nicely on LinkedIn. It does work nicely on LinkedIn. So
got it. Yeah, for sure. LinkedIn's been great for us as well. So how do we question about the comment guard? How do we do the comment guard while the Facebook API is down? Is it possible at the moment, or?
Oh no, yeah. So if you have an existing bot, it'll work. That's fine. You can create things. If you don't have a new existing bot, well, then you're kind of stuck. Well, because your bot has to be reviewed, and so you can still create and test them in Mobile Monkey, but just to get it live will require Facebook kind of opening up the embargo, which my sources tell me could be as early as May 1st. So
cool. Good to know. May 1st. Sweet. So we'll take. I know we're at the end of the webinar here. We'll take 2 quick questions before we go. Number one, Larry, and I'm actually curious to hear this answer from you, is how many times should people be posting to Facebook? I know this is sort of the most generic question you could possibly ask, or the hardest question to answer, I should say. How many times should people be posting to Facebook?
I think it's I do like two times a day, maybe one or two. Like, how about you?
Yeah. I think so the way I always answer this question is I would say that don't post just to post. So if, Larry, you have probably 2 good pieces of content per day. They're probably borderline unicorn pieces of content per day. I think what happens is brands post to post. Like if they hear, let's say 2 posts per day, they just post because they hear that's the proper thing. I think in this new algorithm era, you have to be very specific on what you choose to post. And I think that it's better not to post than it is to just put content up. And I think that brands who are continuing just to post will actually see sort of this net effect of decreased reach. Whereas even if you just post once a week and it's a really good piece of content, you're going to get more reach that way than you would, sort of.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, last question, and that is, do you mind sharing what Buffer's monthly budget is for your own social media channels? I'm happy to share that. So we have actually, it's funny that we talked about this. So we have a $2,000 a month slush fund, which is what we call our top of the funnel awareness fund. And that is basically just boost content on Facebook, and it has worked very well for us. We also have $2,000 a month for more bottom of the funnel content, like Larry was saying, sort of these lead magnets, if you will. So promoting content that's actually going to lead to customers, and that's typically blog posts or landing pages or webinars or whatever it is. So $2,000 a month for top of the funnel, $2,000 a month for the bottom of the funnel. Larry, you don't have to answer that question from a personal standpoint, but what do you think is a typical advertising budget on Facebook?
Oh God, like if you're doing like remarketing, okay, where people who visited your site recently or something like that, like I kind of think you should spend as much as you can. Like if you've got 10,000 visitors to your site, and like why wouldn't you want to show up on their newsfeed like a couple times, like in the week after they visit your site? So it's really audience dependent, and there's definitely a pecking order of where you spend the money. It's like kind of remarketing is sort of the lowest hanging fruit, because they're kind of in market for whatever it is you're selling, and then from there, it's like I would probably add on like your top of funnel stuff next, like for slush fundy stuff. Yeah, it just matters like how big your audiences are.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add to that too, like we've been talking about, if you have a post, like let's say you have a blog article or a video that's getting clicks or views for less than a cent, it's sort of like the sky's the limit at that point. It's like, so how much do you want to spend? You know what I mean? I think the view is like, oh, how much can we spend on sort of making bad content good? But I think if you look at it the other way, how much can we spend on good content to be great and reach even more people? I feel like that would change the mindset of how much people would actually spend on Facebook.
Yeah, just using it as like throwing gas on an existing fire is much more valuable.
Right.
I would spend
exactly.
I would spend next year's budget if like this year, under the right circumstances.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. Thanks for having me. We're kind of out of time here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Larry. Where can people find you? Is it mobilemonkey.com?
Yeah, that's where I'm hanging out these days. So thanks everyone for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.